Why did you guys get in such high dudgeon about what I said that was so obvious, which is you guys should be as loud about going after Trump as you are about the danger of hate speech?
Well, I think they're one in the same. I think the reason that Democrats get so up in arms about this whole idea that Democrats have to disavow violence is because the only reason the violence is here is expressly because of him. He's the only one perpetuating this violence.
Yeah, no, he isn't.
Kamala Harris in a debate last week, she lied about Donald Trump's bloodbath comments. Why did she say that? Because she wants to invoke a negative energy around the campaign of Donald Trump, frankly, to affect these undecided voters that we talked about at the top. What does she want to talk about?
I mean,
the same,
Congressman, you and I have gone back and forth a
the
lot
same
about
lie
like
about
fact-checking that can happen.
Kate, can you acknowledge that Kamala Harris lied about the Charlottesville comments again? Something that even Snopes has debunked and said is fake news, that it is wrong, that his statements were taken out of context. Those are the direct lies coming from Kamala Harris. So if you're going to talk about the invective put into this campaign that Kamala Harris and her campaign has done, trying to invoke a negative response from voters in our country versus Donald Trump talking about issues, whether it be in a city or, quite frankly, you could bring up Aurora, Colorado, or you could bring up Denver, Colorado, that have been overrun by illegal immigrants.
There are lots of things that can be brought up, which is also if you're talking about.
It's hilarious how Democrats and people in the media are getting so annoyed that people are even suggesting that Democrats' rhetoric played some part into Donald Trump's assassination attempt. Second failed assassination attempt, I might add. And it's really getting to them, as you can see from the intro, that Democrats feel insulted that they have to apologize. You even have some people like Whoopi Goldberg from The View stating that only one side is responsible for political violence. And a part of me is like, yeah, Whoopi, I agree with you. It's the left. Think about it. The left can get away with anything. And there's funds to bail them out of prisons. I'm talking about the Minnesota funds of the BLM riots. Chaz, no one was held accountable for that. Antifa for a long time was out here punching, hurting people, right? Police officers were getting killed during the BLM riots because there was multiple BLM riots. But it seemed like only thing people can focus on is 2021. January 6th, January 6th, January 6th. Acting like that was the only thing that happened during that transition period between when Donald Trump was leaving power and Biden was coming into power, right? They so conveniently forget that part, but the left want to act like they've been condemning political violence. No, you have people like Destiny. I did a reaction video to him and Piers Morgan, gleefully happy about the fact that people died at a Trump rally because he disagreed with them politically. These people see us as subhuman. I'm being honest right now. A lot of Democrats see people who are not Democrats, who are not liberal, as subhuman at this point because of the way they talk. Like, look, Chris Cuomo didn't say anything crazy. He just said, hey, instead of mocking President Trump's children, instead of mocking President Trump's wife for having concerns about the detail, Secret Service coming up with theories about what the hell's going on, we should be more understanding. We should be apologizing. That's what Chris Cuomo is saying. The fact that Chris Cuomo suggested that Democrats should apologize for their rhetoric, it sent them off, right? J.D. Vance slams media, Democrats for lecturing Trump about political rhetoric after two people tried to kill him. And the funny part is, they can't give you a direct quote like we can. Like on the right, we have tweets, we have quote tweets, we have all the evidence. Look, Trump just laid out a whole list of receipts, direct quotes from Democratic politicians. I need the same thing for the Republicans. Let me know in the comment section if you have that. Give me the same thing. If you see the quotes, Trump's does not call for violence, does not insinuate that they're a threat. They say, hey, your policies will destroy this country. That's different from saying this man's a threat to democracy, a threat to our nation, a threat to the soul of this country. What do we stand for? Calling him Hitler, associating him with one of the worst people in history. But y'all still want to practice communism. But Nazism so bad. But communism killed more people. But Nazism so bad. Make it make sense. The left is doing all this just for political power, for political games, because they know the only thing the Democrats stand for is Trump bad. Check out this clip of Karine Jean-Pierre gaslighting Peter Doocy, I think I said his name right, for even suggesting that she needs to change her rhetoric on how they address Donald Trump. Let's take a look.
2 days since somebody allegedly tried to kill Donald Trump again. And you're here at the podium in the White House briefing room calling him a threat.
President Biden has been clear-eyed about the threat that the former president represents to our democracy.
How many more assassination attempts on Donald Trump until the president and the vice president and you pick a different word to describe Trump other than threat?
Peter, if anything from this administration, I actually completely disagree with the premise of your question, the question that you're asking. It is also incredibly dangerous in the way that you're asking it, because American people are watching. And to say that from an administration who has consistently condemned political violence, from an administration where the president called the former president and was thankful, grateful that he was okay, from an administration who has called out January 6th, called out the attack of Paul Pelosi, called out and said we need to lower the temperature after the Butler incident, and now for you to make that kind of comment in your question, because your question involved a comment and a statement. And, it is, that is also incredibly dangerous.
You see the gaslighting she tried to do? Oh, we have constantly condemned political violence when it came to January 6th. Oh, wait. There was political violence before that. BLM, Chaz. You made a whole autonomous zone where it was lawless. People was getting murdered, assaulted, killed in that autonomous zone with no intervention from Seattle state officials. It got so bad in Portland that people were calling for Donald Trump to send in the National Guard. But you condemn political violence? Yeah, okay. Only when it's convenient for you. And this is the problem with Democrats. This is why Democrats hate to be held accountable for their rhetoric. Because if you look at it, if you tally the scores, Democrats are more, they contribute more to the political violence, more to violent rhetoric than the right. But they do this little projection thing, and I don't understand how they get away with it, honestly. It's so blatant to see if you just pay attention. Trump brought this up during the debate, and they try to fact check him and say, oh, well, January 6th happened under your watch, ignoring the fact that he brought up BLM. BLM caused more property damage, taking more lives than January 6th, yet we're still talking about January 6th. Like, make it make sense. On paper, January 6th was nothing compared to BLM and Chaz. But what the left like to bring up, what the media like to bring up. This is why the media gets called the propaganda arm of the Democratic Party. The dude gets exposed for his name, David Muir. He gets exposed for his one-sided debate, and he lost 12% of his viewership because people are realizing, yo, maybe this guy's not as credible as he tries to pretend to be. And this is the problem we have with journalism, that I have with modern journalism. It is very partisan. Right? You people will say, oh, look at all these fact checkers, Well, sorry to burst your bubble, but fact checking is also biased. Everything's been politicized. Science, you got the scientific journal, I forgot their name, endorsing political candidates. Oh, way to make science look credible. Whoever the party holds to be true is true. It is impossible to see reality except by looking through the eyes of the party. I already mentioned it. Majority of journalists are Democrats. Majority of journalists donate to the Democratic Party. How do you know you're not getting news filtered by the lens that the media wants you to see? How do you know you're not getting information and news, knowledge, and information filtered to a Democrat lens? How do you know that, American voter? How do you know that? Misinformation experts largely lean in one political direction. This can skew, will, and does impact which information is deemed legitimate or not. Political leanings of misinformation experts. Look at it. Very on the left. But here they are pretending that, oh no, we're very credible people. It's the same argument I do about the U.S. journalists. If most of the U.S. journalists are Democrats, how do you know you're not getting a biased, filtered information distribution? How you know they ain't filtering out information that makes them look bad and only giving you information that makes them look good? This is the argument that many people are having. This is my strongest point. And instead of acknowledging that and trying to, reconcile my point and try to give an alternative or try to give their view on things, they try to dismiss it altogether and say it's mega talking points. No, they're my talking points based on my research. And I show you here on the channel. I show you, hey, look, this is the article I read in 2018 when I started becoming more politically informed. One of the first articles I saw was, hey, how biased is the media? Because Donald Trump always claims about fake news, fake news, fake news. Is it true? And I went down the rabbit hole and I found that article from Forbes stating how U.S. journalist is one of the most liberal professions in the U.S. And I was like, wow, only 3.7% of journalists are Republicans. Oh, that's a lot of bias in journalism. No one rectified that point. All you got is the left complaining, oh, our rhetoric isn't the problem, because it highlights the journalists themselves. If a journalist is a Democrat and we're saying, hey, Democrats' rhetoric is what's causing these attacks on Donald Trump. You guys been calling him Hitler. You've been lying about bloodbath. You lied about Charlottesville. You're trying to demonize the man. And we're asking you to take accountability for it. No wonder they got so mad at what Chris Cuomo brung up. I want to listen to Glenn Greenwald here about the narratives and the rules and conditions that the liberals themselves created, but they don't want to hold themselves accountable to the very rules they put forth. But then they have this. These are the same people who have the gall to tell Christians and people and religious people to hold up to their beliefs, but rules that they themselves set, the premises that they themselves set, they can't even follow. Let's take a look.
This is also on Jen Psaki's show. Her show and Joy Reid's show is kind of ground zero for the most violent and extremist rhetoric. And over the weekend, Jasmine Crockett, who is I think in her second term now, might be her first term, from a Democrat from Texas. She's a newly elected member of Congress, who uses anti-Trump rhetoric in the most unhinged and extremist ways possible. And this was over the weekend. So she went on to Jen Psaki's show and she basically said that when you take an oath of office and pledge to enforce the Constitution, one of the things you're promising to do, one of the things you're duty bound to do, is to fight against all enemies, both foreign and domestic, which is the language of the Constitution. And she said that one of America's enemies, in fact, one of America's primary enemies, domestic enemies, is Donald Trump and his political movement. And that not only is someone justified in doing everything to stop it, they're obligated to. I mean, this is the language of violence. This is when you say,
oh, Democrats, what excuses you got now? I like, what excuse you have now? Like, I don't want to hear nothing in the comment section without you saying, yeah, this is wrong, Kenny. Then you can go into whataboutism, like you guys love to do, right? Because remember, we're not, I just say it was one side. I personally said it was one side, but everyone loved to say it's both sides, it's both sides. No, both sides is not an accurate argument, because we see one side, their political violence is enabled, hell, sometimes encouraged. But on the other side, we take a step out of toe, boom, instant accountability. But there's lack of accountability on the left. You can say both sides had political violence, but my argument is, who had it more? Who has it more? The left. The left is just held less accountable for it. When these people for BLM was going to jail, Democrats rose a fund to bail them out. The Minnesota fund that Kamala Harris donated to. You can look it up. She still has that tweet up on X. Do your own research. But, oh, no, it's the right that's responsible for political violence. No, the left dominates journalism. Since the journalism vastly donate to the Democratic Party, they won't highlight any stories that would make the Democratic Party look negative. That is the truth. That's the reality of modern journalism. People are using their positions of authority, their positions of power, if you want to go down that line of logic, to highlight things that will make their party look as favorable as possible. And when the journalism is overwhelmingly dominated by left-wing people who are aligned with the Democratic Party, when you got the fact checkers of misinformation heavily politically aligned with the Democratic Party, what incentive do they have to highlight the negatives of their own party? I'll wait. Liberals and Democrats, don't have a good track record of calling out their own side. So what makes you think Democrats in journalism, Democrats in political misinformation will have any incentive to call it out? Because the Democrats' main thing is we don't want to do things that'll help Trump. So telling the truth, giving accurate information helps Trump. What does that tell you? I'll leave that up to the undecideds and the people who are unsure. What does that tell you? Saying the truth about a candidate helps Donald Trump. Make it make sense. That's why I say the Democrats, they're not worried about informing you of the truth. They're worried about informing you of a narrative, and they want you to vote based on a narrative, not on the truth. They don't want you to have accurate information. They want you to have distorted information or half accurate information, as long as you do what they want. And this is why the media is so triggered, so mad that Chris Cuomo is suggesting that they should apologize for their rhetoric, because their rhetoric serves a purpose. Their rhetoric serves the purpose of helping them win. That's the reality, because Democrats only care about the results. Hey, what we need to do to win the election. And with that frame of mind, you don't think a 19-time Democratic donor, Ryan Ruth, who attempted to shoot at Donald Trump, waiting for him in the bushes for 12 hours, you don't think he had the same line of thought? Do anything it takes to make the Democrats win this election. But you still don't want to condemn your own rhetoric. Instead, you want to make it about the other side. Oh, what aboutism? I don't care. What our parents used to always, I grew up old school. When we did something wrong and we try to blame our brother, oh, it's because of our parents used to stop us right there and say, hey, stop making excuses. Accept what you did. Then we can go criticize the other person. But you can't criticize the other person until you accept what you have been called out that you've done. Instead, Democrats deflect. But I digress.
I pledge to protect America from all enemies, both domestic and foreign. This is the kind of framework that justifies wars. You wage wars against foreign enemies that threaten the United States. You wage wars against domestic enemies that threaten the United States. Here was the rhetoric that she used, also on Jen Psaki's show. And needless to say, at no point did Jen Psaki say, hey, wait a minute, doesn't this violence rhetoric kind of risk the possibility of violence against the president? He was just almost assassinated 2 months ago. Shouldn't we turn down the temperature so that we don't incite people to go kill former President Trump? No, of course she didn't say that. Here's what was said on that show.
I talk about the fact that when we swore in finally in January, that we swore to defend against those that are coming against us, whether they are domestic or international. And right now, I feel like MAGA in general, they are threats to us domestically. And we see it time and time again. And I think that's why you see so many national leaders, whether they're Republicans or Democrats, coming together to say there is only one person qualified to be the commander in chief, and that is Kamala.
Okay, I mean, that is, you can't use language more extremist than that. And she didn't actually just say that Donald Trump is a leading threat to our country. She said the entire MAGA movement is, meaning Donald Trump and his supporters and his followers and his voters. And this is the kind of rhetoric, I'm sure you recognize it as the rhetoric that has been in the air pretty much every day for the last 8 years since Trump posed a serious threat to become the president, especially once he became the president. And so it is, the only thing that's surprising about it is that it hasn't led to more people trying to kill Donald Trump. And here we have a perfect example of someone feeding on this existential good versus evil framework about the Ukraine war, about the overarching necessity to try and kill Vladimir Putin and destroy Russia, which, independent of Trump, is an extremely dangerous sort of vision.
Rhetoric, vision, whatever you want to call it. But you get the point that I'm trying to highlight here. Is that they set a standard about political rhetoric, right? They want to say that only one side is responsible for the rhetoric problem. And we say, yeah, it's you, Democrats. And Democrats are screeching in the streets talking about, no, it's not. Democrats don't want any accountability for what they do. You can't have one-sided aggression. You can't have one-sided criticism. You have to be able to criticize yourself too. And this is the biggest problem. This is why I say liberals are kind of responsible for this. Because of the fact that liberals always play tribal. We don't criticize our own time. We get one, we stay on the team. We get one for the team. The liberals always had that attitude that it got to a point where progressives started ruling the Democratic Party, and now you got liberals getting pushed out into the Republican Party. Make it make sense. You got liberal Democrats changing parties because of the fact of how extreme the Democratic Party has become, because you have enabled tyranny. This is the flaw of liberalism. Liberalism cannot defend status quo because change is not always a good thing. Just like tradition isn't always a good thing. But liberals only know how to criticize tradition. They don't know how to defend tradition. This is why they always lose. This is why totalitarianism is taking over the Democratic Party. And I'll say that. Because the ends justifying the means, it's something communists say. It's something socialists say. And socialism is just as popular as capitalism now in 2024. So what does that tell you, especially when the Democratic Party likes to cater to young people? What does that tell you about the future of the Democratic Party? And people wonder why people feel like we're going through another political realignment with Donald Trump. So before I end off this video, because I think I still have some time, I want to highlight the video that has gotten all the Democrats up in arms with Chris Cuomo after he got off the phone with Donald Trump. So let's take a look.
And you can think what you want about Trump. He does not have many more full-throated critics of what he says and does than me. Okay? And yet I called him today because I am ashamed of how we are responding and not responding to the threats on him. And I feel for his family. And I know you can roll your eyes and say, oh, yeah, he asked for it. Listen, that's your choice, and I think it's a wrong choice, okay? We got to get out of the judgment business unless it's judging ourselves. And you got to start rewarding things that are better. And I got to tell you, I don't know how he stays in the race. I don't know how he got up after being shot in the head. And you people who try to mitigate that, you need to check yourself.
Like, make it make sense. How is it someone on the right minimizing what happened to Donald Trump? Who's more incentivized to minimize what happened to Donald Trump politically? Let's play a game. Because look, if you want me to take morality out of it, I can argue with the best of people. When it comes to functional, when it comes to the practical, when it comes to the pragmatic, I think I'm undefeated. Like, no one can defeat me on that. I'm just being honest. Because if I look at the incentives, who's more politically incentivized to minimize what happens to Donald Trump? A Republican or a Democrat? If I take morality out of it, if I take principles out of it, if I take emotions out of it, logically, who's more incentivized to minimize what happens to Donald Trump? Democrats. Yet now we put the morality back. Now we put principles back. Now we put emotions back. And now I'm stating, hey, Democrats, you need to take accountability for your rhetoric. And they're saying, no, it's not our fault. It's Republicans' fault. It's Trump's own rhetoric is why violence is happening against them. Make it make sense. It's obvious that if someone's going to assassinate Donald Trump, it's explicit through their actions that they don't agree with Donald Trump. So who that make that person more likely to be? A Republican or a Democrat? Oh, there's Republicans that don't like Donald Trump either. Yeah, but they're going to support Kamala Harris, correct? We're talking about anti-Trump rhetoric. Who spews more anti-Trump rhetoric? Democrats. It's obvious your rhetoric is contributing mostly to the problem than the right. This is my argument. But it seems like Democrats don't want to see it because they don't want to hold themselves accountable to it. They don't like when the game switches up on them. They created this the state of the game, and then now they don't want to abide by the rules. Make it make sense. Rules for thee, but not for me. That's the Democratic playbook.
He gets up, pumping his fist, stays in the race, barely even talks about it. Now, look, I do believe he has wasted opportunities, and he has another one now. Who better than Trump to say, we can do better? I can do better. I know he keeps doubling down on his angry rhetoric. How can he not? It keeps working for him. I don't know that it gets him elected. My theory is that he needs to expand. He had a chance to do it after he was the target of an assassination at the RNC. He had a chance to say, I know what got me here. It's not going to get me where I want us to be. He did not take that chance. He now has another chance. Oh, you're supporting Trump. I'm supporting us. The idea that I am a Trump supporter is laughable to the man on your screen right now. That is not what this is. I am worried about us. I am ashamed of what's happening around us right now and the relative lack of concern about it.
Honestly, I can explain the lack of concern from the Democrats and the media is that their thing is not about what's best for this country. It's what's best for them, what's best for the Democratic Party, what's best for us, as in Democrats. What's going to keep us power? What's going to keep us in influence? And everything is used as a tool for that end. What rhetoric do we need to spew to keep Democrats in power to make people elect the Democrat candidate? This helps them. This is the reality. It's all politically motivated. Morality comes second. What's best for this country comes second. It's what's best for the party, which is I mentioned earlier in this video. And I think that is the real true motive for why Democrats don't want to take accountability for their rhetoric. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I agree with me, disagree with me. I'd like to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Do you see my point? Don't see my point? You have something to add? Add it in the comment section. I would like to hear it and see it. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.